what I opened with, the fact that we have the solutions. We talk about the crises in our country and this moment that we are in, and all of that is true. But we have the solutions, we have the innovators in banking, in tech, in business, in the world of work, right here in South Africa. Speaking of innovators, that brings us to our next keynote speaker this morning. She made history in the past couple of months by becoming the first coach to lead South Africa to WAFCON success. Banyana and the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, for those of us not in sport. So we're asking Desiree Ellis, Coach Desiree Ellis this morning, what does it take to lead a winning team? And perhaps more importantly, what does it take wherever you're comfortable, Coach. More importantly, what does it take to bring a team back from loss? Coach, I'm going to hand it over to you this morning. Do you want to come and stand at the lectern, or are you comfortable there? You're comfortable there. All right. Can we get a microphone for Coach Ellis, please? Thank you. Do you want to start with a Q&A?
It's
a Q&A, right. I'll join you now. Just a reminder that you can still go onto the menti.com site and put in those numbers that I gave you a bit earlier. Let me just read them out again for our attendees that are joining for the first time. Let me just find those details, Coach. Welcome. It's great to see you.
Good morning.
Right?
Here we go.
1, 2.
Sorry. Good morning.
Sorry about the technical gremlins. Let's just pat it and see. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, because without His grace and His mercy, we would not be here.
So, Coach, I just want to give people the opportunity to, in the meantime, while we are having our discussion, to pose any questions to you. And those details will come up on the screen behind us. Those questions will come up on the screen behind us. So you'll go to menti.com. That's MENTI.com. And you'll use the code 31295908. 31295908. So, Coach, I want to begin with you this morning by talking about a whole range of issues. And you'll give us the pointers from your perspective as Banyana head coach, but we want to apply it broadly, right? So let's start with the issue of acquiring talent and the principles of building a team. Where do you begin?
Look, I started out first as an assistant coach, and when the assistant coach left, I became the acting coach, and after 2 years, I became the head coach, and I didn't try to change what the previous head coach had done. I used some of that, and then my own ideas. We don't have a professional league, so we go to tournaments, school tournaments, matches. We go to national championships, university tournaments, and we have a selection criteria of the way we want to play. I think most of the players are a little bit taller than what I am. So we have a selection criteria for each position, and obviously the players are not going to tick all the boxes. Yeah. So we'll select players who we think will do the job for us, and sometimes there are influential players in other teams, but they might not be influential for us. And then we go along with that. We obviously also source through our youth teams, the U17 and the U20s. We also source abroad. We have players at universities abroad. We have professional players abroad, so we also source through that. And each coach out there is a selector. If they don't know that by now, then I'm not sure what they're in the job for. So they will send us, for example, names as well, and we'll ask for a video. In the past, we had provincial technical officers in each of the 9 regions, a male and a female, and if we got recommendations, we would ask them to go out and do an analysis on the player. And if we feel, then we'll send the player a program, obviously, to come in. We also, what we do is the current players in the team obviously get a program, but also the new players that we identify. We don't just leave them hanging. We give them a program to make sure that when they come in that they're ready. Otherwise, they have no chance. So our selection is very broad. Like I say, we see maybe one game a weekend on television. Some are live streamed. I do get footage from different clubs that do tactical footage to be able to identify players as well. So it's very, very broad.
And obviously you go into that process of finding the right talent with an idea, a very clear idea of the kind of player you want in your team.
No, most definitely. If you look at our attacking players, they're all pretty quick. So we look for similar players because a lot of times we play on the transition. The likes of Tembi, the likes of Jermaine, the likes of Hilda, the likes of Nicolo, the likes of Gabriela Salgado. You can mention quite a lot, the likes of Linda. And we have a young Tabising Magia who's 18 years old from the Northern Cape. So we look for that type of players, but we also look for players that are comfortable on the ball, because that is the way we want to play. We're not a group of players that are very tall, but we're very good with the ball at our feet. And that is who we want to be. And we try to stay true to who we are. When we recently played Brazil...
I was about to actually ask you about that.
When we recently played Brazil, it was obviously an opportunity to test ourselves more than anything. And we wanted this test early to be able to see, now we're going to play a game under huge pressure. We're going to play a game where they're going to press us very high. We're going to play a game where they're going to force mistakes on us. And one player said, let's sit back and play them on the counter. And I'm like, are we going to play like that at the World Cup? No. Otherwise, we're just going to be parking the bus and hoping to lose by 1 or 2-0. I said, let's be true to who we are. And at times, we looked good on the ball, but at other times, we couldn't handle the pressure we were under. But we also said we want to give all the players an opportunity to be able to test players, because we want to see who we can take along with us in our journey, because it's a long journey. The World Cup is next year, July, August. And we lose some players along the way, and we gain some players as well. So the next squad that you see, there'll be a couple of surprises.
Let me ask you this, Coach. Going into that Brazil game, how important is an exercise like that one when you're putting yourself on the line with a very real risk of failure?
Look, it was not just about the result. It was more about the performance. It was a lot more about to see from WAFCON, can the players raise their levels? And I reminded them that if they think that WAFCON was all that, they're in for a rude awakening, because the World Cup is so many levels up. We have an amateur league in South Africa, and we're playing against professionals. So we really have to up our game. I mean, the Brazil players are playing for Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona. And with all due respect, you know, we have players at the University of Johannesburg, players at the University of the Western Cape, players at JVW. So it's a lot of ground to make up for, but we wanted this early so that we can put players on a program later, so that we can make sure that when we get to the business end of it, we are ready. We could play the likes of Lesotho, the likes of Malawi, the likes of Eswatini, and win 5-6-0. But are we really helping ourselves? Because we're actually giving them competition. We are actually helping them to get better. But we need to be pushed beyond our limits, and we need to be pushed beyond our comfort zone to be able to get better. So the next international friendly, which has already been announced, is Australia. So we play number 9 in the world. Now we go to number 12 in the world. We are ranked number 54 in the world, and this is our second successive World Cup. And obviously, you want to do better than the last time, and you want to test yourselves. So we'll be playing opponents that will get maybe easier to see what we've learned in these games.
Yeah. It's like running. It makes me think about marathon runners, people who run for a living. They want to run with people who are much better than them so that they can push themselves further and further. Coach, I think we have one question here from the audience. It says 1 of 29, good grief. All right, how do you and your players cope with feelings of imposter syndrome?
Look, we've never had a mental coach before. This was the first time in this competition that we had a mental coach, because talent alone is not going to win you things. And sometimes there's a lot of things going on in their heads. And the previous speaker spoke about social media. When we have these big competitions, the World Cup or like WAFCON, my assistant coach says to me, it's time to go off now. If there's anything important that you want to know, I will let you know. We try to keep everything within. We're not too worried about what gets said outside. People will say, bring back the World Cup. You know, people will say, beat Brazil 6-0. But we know within our group what it is that we want to do.
Yeah.
And we stay true to who we are. You know, when we were going to WAFCON, we had a meeting with the senior players and we asked them what their ambitions were, because we had a couple of challenges in 2019. And they said they want to win it. And I said, well, this is the first matter of qualifying for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And Jermaine said, no, we want to win this. You win this, you qualify for the World Cup. And I said, look, we won't leave anyone at home who we think will win us the tournament. We trust you, so trust us. And you've got to buy in. Janine spoke about experience, and I said it only matters if it adds value. But Tembi was the game changer. Tembi said, if you get 1 minute, let it be your best 1 minute. If you get 5 minutes, let it be your best 5 minutes. And if you don't get to play in the tournament and you're on the bench, then become the biggest cheerleader. So we try to keep everything within and make sure that the outside factors don't affect us. We try to get players to stay off social media, which is very difficult. But we know within what we want to do. We don't go out there and say, okay, we want to beat Nigeria 5-0 or we want to win this match. We keep it within ourselves and we take it day by day and we take it game by game. Because there were challenges along the way and we had to deal with those challenges individually and as a group. You know, and losing Tembi, I think the whole country went into mourning. But we had chosen a squad for every eventuality. Having COVID, I think that also put a real damper on things, and most probably that day was our best training session. So we tried to keep things within and not worry too much about the outside.
It's that singularity of purpose, even in a team of a number of individuals. I mean, how do you get that kind of buy-in in one team to be following that sort of single-mindedness?
It's called teamwork and unity. I think this group was most probably the most connected group that I was part of since I was part of the national team since 2014. We said to them, you know, you set the culture, not me.
Yeah.
You set the standard, not me. You raise the levels and you hold each other accountable because it's always the coach trying to be a traffic officer. But it's not about me, it's about you. If we can be united, then no one can beat us. And it surely was that, especially when Tembi got injured. Everybody was in a somber mood. When we had the COVID, everybody was in a somber mood. And Tembi actually stood up and was very brave and said, it's not about me. We still have our objectives. We can still qualify for the World Cup. We can still win this. And she became our biggest cheerleader from home.
Yeah,
I remember
amazing.
seeing her dancing on one leg.
Yeah. There must be difficult conversations as well. I can't imagine that it's been an easy road that you've traveled with your team, taking you to WAFCON success. So what do you do when you do have those members who are not in that one mindset?
Look, if you're not in the one mindset, you either sit next to me, and as it goes, you move off along the bench, and unfortunately out of the team.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the individual, it's never been about the individual. Any awards that we win is team first, and in the individual will shine. Because we're a team, and without each other, we won't achieve, or we won't be successful, or we won't reach our objectives. And we have the one-on-one conversations, etc. But the most difficult part for me is dropping a player, having to tell that player that they didn't make it. And that doesn't mean that the player is not good enough, but just for that moment, we needed to choose someone else.
Yeah.
And we have those conversations all the time. But we have a big group. We have a group of 40 odd. And when we select 23, it's because we look at who we play, what we require for that particular match. And sometimes it doesn't please the fans,
Yeah.
you know, but we got to stay true to who we are, and we got to trust who we select, and then hand that trust over to them. And by playing and giving a good performance, they give that trust back to us.
It's about cutting out the noise, right? You talk about trying to get your players off from social media. You can't be bothered with everyone's opinion in making those decisions. Let's take another look at a question for you, Coach. How do you inspire your team when they are at their lowest?
Look, we've had a couple of good moments and a couple of bad moments. You know, we qualified for the World Cup, went to the World Cup, won the COSAFA Cup, and immediately after that, we lost in the first round to Botswana.
Yeah.
We lost in the first round after most probably battering them for the duration of 180 minutes and lost the penalty shootout. And when I walked into the dressing room, it was like a graveyard.
Yeah.
All I said to them was, these things happen. You don't go onto the field wanting to lose. Also, there's no team in the world that has gone through without losing a game. I said, now the media might be on your case. Now you've got to support each other. Now you've got to back each other. Now you've got to stand up for each other. And then we use that reminders, to make it better. I remember in 2014, when we should have qualified for the World Cup, we lost in the 3rd and 4th place playoff. And we had this T-shirt already. Welcome to Canada 2015. But we didn't go.
Yeah, yeah.
I took that T-shirt with me to Nigeria in 2018. And that was my reminder and everybody else's reminder that we were not going there.
Yeah.
I remember a few where Johnny had to leave because due to a contract, she had to go back to a club. And we had an agreement that we qualify for the World Cup, then you can go. They were that determined. But I think 2022 was even a bigger one. When people back home said, we played so well against Nigeria, but we didn't play well against the rest of the teams. I tend to differ, because in 2018, we played the best football of the whole competition and came home with the silver. We had no international friendlies leading up to that, so we had to manage the player load, we had to manage everything within the team, the injuries, the COVID cases, and in the end, we've got that gold medal because the focus was all about that gold medal. It wasn't about the money that they were offered, it was about that gold medal, because that gold medal resulted in all the outcomes where they got money from all over. And I said, if you put up performances like that, then that is the result.
We were all cheering you on as the games were progressing throughout.
But I'm sure that 9 minutes was the longest of your life.
Torturous.
Longest
I
of mine
prefer
too.
not to watch live soccer matches. I watch it once I know what the result is. I mean, you talk about these difficult moments, right, in your career in the lead up to AFCON. And it's about that well-roundedness of an experience. Not every experience is going to be positive. There will be tragedy and disappointment on the way. But how important that is that in shaping, how you attack the next problem, the next possible disaster.
Look, you use that to make sure it doesn't happen again, and we forget so easily, but we remember at the back here. It's always a reminder of what happened and to make sure it doesn't happen again. What I did was I surrounded myself with experts.
Yeah.
I'm not the expert. I'm just the coach. My analyst worked in the NFT, right? A former professional footballer. My football conditioning coach also worked in the NFT. My goalkeeper coach has got a SAFA Pro license. My assistant coach is well-versed in women's football in the country, used to be the university national team coach. So I surrounded myself with that experts, and I don't micromanage. They are experts in their own right. But the most important thing was us trusting each other, not getting someone who's after my job, getting someone who I can count on. Getting someone who I can count on when I'm not around, making sure that we have the same vision, making sure that we have the same ideas, all of those things. So the group that I work with is very influential. That's why credit always goes to the backroom staff. The backroom staff that nobody sees, that nobody hears of, and the players get all the applause. But they deserve the applause. The medical team as well has been long-standing with the national team. We lost our long-standing kit manager to COVID. Last year, and it was very painful for us. But this was all in her memory as well. We would have remembered her singing. So we make sure that whatever we do, we get the players buy-in. We have an open book relationship where players can walk into the room anytime and question. Players can go onto WhatsApp and ask me a question. And like Thembi said, I think we have that relationship, coach, where I can ask you anything. So it's not just about me as the coach, but it's about everybody, because everybody contributes towards the team. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, that it's not the coach who's in charge, but everyone who has an important say in how the team does. And we allow that. We sometimes divide the group so that they get personal interaction, because we have a big group, but it's important to have that one-on-one. I always say, you can't be a coach and not care, and that is the first component.
Yeah, yeah. It's that leadership style of almost leading not from the front, but also it's not about you as the leader. It's not about your ego. Actually, let me go to the next question, and there are many of them, Coach. We're going to try and sort of jump around and see which questions we can get you. Leading a huge team, especially for women, how do you make sure that everyone is motivated to do better and that they're not discouraged by, I suppose, the everyday obstacles of life?
I think it's very difficult to work with a group of women, and we were together for almost 50 days, which made it even more difficult. And during the time of COVID was really challenging because in the past, we would give the players a day off and say, come back at 7 p.m. But the players set the rules, so we hold them accountable for that. And what we try and do is to give everybody that openness.
Yeah.
I think the openness is the most important thing. The honesty is the most important thing. And before we went to the competition, as I said, we spoke about what happened in 2018. We spoke about where we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. I mean, we've been to the final 5 times, the most of all the teams that has played at the competition. But we wanted to make sure that this time around, we were not the runners-up. And we knew that when we drew Nigeria, it became a bigger game than what it was, and being the first game in the competition. But the players were so focused. We had a call from the president, Ramaphosa. We also, on match day itself, the president of SAFA wants to see the players. And I wasn't too happy about that because I wanted no distractions, but he's the president. So we allow him to come in, and as the players walk in, they walk in with a jukebox, singing and dancing. I almost didn't want to have a team meeting. When we went to the stadium was packed out. They were not fazed at all because we had 60 million people back home supporting us. So they were not fazed by the lasers, by nothing. When the game was going on, there were a couple of cramps, and I asked Jermaine, does she want to come? She said, no, no one's coming past me. I won that gold medal. So they were so focused. I think losing a game puts you back a bit.
Yeah.
But it reminds you that we're all human. It reminds you that mistakes do happen. It reminds you that you need to work harder. And losing the Olympic qualifier to Botswana was most probably our lowest moment. But then 2 months later, we get an opportunity to play Japan. But we remember that, as I said, it's in the back here, for moments when we're in that position again to make sure it doesn't happen and to fight for each other on the field. And we have the conversations before with players that say they might not play a game in the tournament. They might not even get onto the field for anything. And that is the conversations we need to have beforehand and during the tournament, because it's about the gold medal, it's about the individual, but it's also about giving players an opportunity. And sometimes you don't get to give everyone an opportunity, but that is the reality of top sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredible to think that you play in another country with the kind of booing and lasers, as you say, and you still keep that clarity of purpose in what you came there to do. We've got time for, I think, a couple more questions, but I think this is more of a comment for you, Coach. I appreciate that your focus is remaining true to your purpose. That's another theme today, the importance of clarity of purpose.
I think what we try and do is we're not a group of tall players, and we try to stay true to who we are, no matter who we play. Sometimes the result is not there, but we always look at the performance, because each and every match has certain objectives. If we've reached our objective and we didn't win, we'll try better luck next time, because the performance also brings results. And we always say we trust the process. We lost to Zambia last year in the 3rd and 4th place playoff for COSAFA, and we were slaughtered. We didn't play well, and that's a given coming back from the Aisha Buhari Cup. We then lost to Zambia at the beginning of the year. But there were issues and challenges around that, but nobody cares. All they want is results. And always said we're going to trust the process. We went to play the Netherlands, our league hadn't started. We trusted the process because the end result was that WAFCON medal.
Yeah. The failure is also a stepping stone to where you need to be. And the failure is perhaps the wrong term, but the outcome that's not as you planned, it's a stepping stone to getting you where you need to be. In fact, Manda, in your book, you also talk about being held back in school for 1 year and how that was seen at the time, because that's how primary school children see it, as a failure. But what it really was a stepping stone to getting to your academic success.
We don't call it a failure, we call it an obstacle. It's an obstacle,
yeah.
Like the mental coach said, you go on this bus trip and it's going to go like this. It's not going to go like this, but it's what you do after that obstacle gets into your way.
Absolutely.
You react to that and what you do to get better and to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we could sit here for another hour. It's been wonderful talking to you, Coach. Incredible principles, even in your job, that can, I think, be applied to all spheres of life, even in corporate South Africa. Coach Desiree Ellis, ladies and gentlemen, please give her a hand of applause. Thank you, Coach. Oh, let me pull my pants down. I never know what to do with my face with a photo.
I promise to come back again. Unfortunately, I have to rush to the airport. I have another event in Cape Town.
All right.
But I do promise to come back and give you more time.
Thank you so much, Coach. It's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you. Travel safely.